You know, we've actually superseded you characters in the UK and Canada.
I know about this,
Bill
yes.
C63?
Yes.
So I got to tell you about this bill. It's in second reading in the House, and I think the bloody Liberals will pass it before Trudeau gets turfed.
Right.
And so, not the TERF turf, but the other kind. Okay, so this is sandwiched in the layers of a bill that purports to protect children from online sexual abuse. Okay, so, and who could object to that, obviously, even though the bill does almost nothing to actually make that, to decrease the probability of that. I've read this like 5 times because I can't believe it's actually true. I keep thinking, I can't say this because it can't be true. But here's what I understand. I can take you in front of a provincial magistrate. And if I can convince that magistrate that you might commit a hate crime in the next year, so a non-crime hate incident.
But you might, not even that you have. You might.
I might. That I'm afraid that you might.
Yes.
If I can show that my fear is justified, whatever the hell that means, then you can have an electronic bracelet affixed to your ankle for a year. You can be confined to your house. Your communication with the outside world, including social media, can be restricted to virtually nothing. And for reasons that I really can't understand at all, you will be required to provide samples of your bodily fluids to the authorities on a regular basis, I think to determine whether you've been consuming alcohol or marijuana. Is like marijuana doesn't make you commit hate crimes. Alcohol might, but I think they probably got that from domestic abuse law, right?
Yes.
Because if you're a drunk and you're a domestic abuser, you're much more likely to reoffend. Right. But so we've surpassed the non-crime as a precursor to crime. Well, we have fear of non-crime as a precursor to crime.
Can I put, let's have a competition then. I think you're winning at the moment.
Competition of stupidity. Canada's really in the forefront of this.
A competition of authoritarianism and stupidity. I think we've got a few more cards to play in the UK. Insofar as, for instance, there have been estimates around 250,000 non-crime hate incidents recorded against UK citizens. They happen at the dinner
table all the time.
I think it's like 62 a day or something is the average.
Especially in the UK, because you guys are so cutting with your tongues. Yes. I mean, it's like a national sport.
Exactly. But worse than that is that the College of Policing has been instructed twice by the Home Office to stop doing this. 2 Home Secretaries in succession, Priti Patel and Suala Braverman, said to them, you can't do this anymore, issued new guidelines. Not only did they ignore the guidelines, but incidents of non-crime recording has gone up since the government has said you can't do this. In addition to that, the High Court ruled that it was effectively, they said it was it had a chilling effect on freedom of speech. The judge compared it to the Stasi, said we've never had a Gestapo in this country. They effectively said, this is not lawful. And so, in other words, the College of Policing, an individual activist group that trains the police in our country, has ignored the government twice and the High Court once and has fudged the language. And now we have a Labour government that has said it wants to ramp up non-crime hate incidents. We've had Yvette Cooper saying these are really important. We need to record non-crime. Now, you might still be winning on the Canada front because we haven't got to the point where if I think you might commit a crime. Yeah. But to give a very specific example, which is why it's been written about a lot over the last few weeks, is because a journalist in the UK, Alison Pearson, Telegraph journalist, was visited on Remembrance Sunday morning by 2 police officers, and they said, we are investigating you for a crime of stirring up racial hatred. And she said, what is the complaint against me? What is the crime? We can't tell you what the crime is or what the tweet is. It was a tweet from a year ago. Yeah.
So you don't need to know the crime or the accusers, right?
She asked about the accuser and they said, it's not the accuser, it's the victim. So in other words, so we don't have due process. We don't have due process either. Yeah. Now you'll know the novel, The Trial.
There's no presumption of innocence.
Right.
Because who needs that?
Exactly. But in The Trial by Kafka, the first scene is 2 police officers turning up at his house, and he says, what have I done wrong? We cannot tell you that. You do not need to know that. This was a replay of that. Yeah. So when she describes it as Kafkaesque, she's not being hyperbolic. Right. It's straight out of the first chapter of The Trial. And he never finds out what he's done wrong in that novel, right up until the grisly end of that novel. So go on, sorry, Graham.
No, I was just going to say, I've had 2 visits from the police, one on a Sunday morning.
As befits a big...
Yes, tell him, because it'll beat Canada if you tell him about this.
Well, we'll see. I've got one up my sleeve still.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Okay, so tell the story.
Well, I started reporting on the activities of a serial con man
Victim.
I'll be
Victim.
who was taking women to court, getting them put in prison cells and so on. And he called that harassment, used it, first of all, to call the police on me, then sent me a summons. He sued me at the same time because he's what I call a prison lawyer. You know. He knows about the law, and that's what he does. He just puts people under the stress of a
called malignant narcissism. By the way,
yeah. And then just at the end, he drops it. You know, he owes me costs. He owes everyone costs. Anyway, found out recently. Apart from all this, he was a sexual offender. He was in prison for sexual offences against a 14-year-old boy. You know, this is the guy who has the British police working for him, going to people's houses and knocking on doors.
Did they tell you?
Actually,
they told you your sin, though, didn't they?
They told me that. Yeah.
Oh well,
they just.
You
could hear it in the voice of the guy, of the policeman on the other end of the phone. This was the first time. It was just a phone call. And you could tell he did not know what was going on, you know? And he said...
Yeah, that's even worse.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's just pure procedure. And he said to me, can you block them on Twitter or something?
Yeah.
And I said, I already have them blocked. I knew immediately this was a malignant and appalling person. I blocked him. I said, I blocked him years ago, you know?
Yeah.
And he was confused by that. You know, because he just didn't really know what was going on. So these activists just say the right words to wind them up, and they go to people's doors.
The real fear I have is that you can't vote it out, because all of this came about during the Tories, and now we've got Labour, and so you know, whatever you get, because the College of Policing and because the police they do their own thing, they decide their own thing. They don't care about what they're told to do by the government. It's not a right or left issue. Both are bad. But I do think, and we've had conversations about this, I do think that with a Labour government in the UK, things are getting a lot worse, a lot quicker.
So no matter how stupid the Conservatives are, the Labour Party can do worse.
Well, it's not just now about non-crime. We've had a lot of cases since the riots in the summer after the murder of those 3 children in Southport.
By that Christian Welshman.
The ethnically no, this is yes, I know what you're doing there. He you know, we've had people who wrote...
and the Al-Qaeda...
He had an Al-Qaeda training manual.
Which every Christian Welshman has that.
Standard Welsh practice to have that. But he... there were riots, there was anger, there was a lot of obvious justified anger. There were also some horrendous people opportunistically turning up from the far right to attack and destroy and defame. All of that is true. But the problem is we've had people who've in anger have tweeted things out that I do find objectionable, you know, things that are racist, things that are unpleasant. And there's, let me give you an example. There's one woman, Lucy Connolly, and she wrote out, I don't care anymore. We should burn down the hotels that they're in. We should just, you know, I don't care.
Yeah, I remember
Not pleasant.
Yeah.
31 months in prison. Said in anger, by the way. Deleted very quickly. Said in anger, deleted quickly. 31 months in prison. There've been a number of cases like that.
Yeah.
And one of the common factors is that all of the judges have said, we are setting an example. We're giving you the harshest jail term to set an example to others.
Yeah.
And
those were the court cases that were sped along so efficaciously.
And previous to that, Keir Starmer had said that he wanted judges to do this. So it's all, there's a weird...
sex offenders removed from their cells to make room for these women.
My problem with this is...
They were victims.
My problem with this is manifold. I mean, firstly, the draconianism of the jail terms is a problem in and of itself for language, for speech. I don't approve of the speech, but there is no evidence whatsoever that that tweet by that woman caused any violence in the real world. None whatsoever. And no one can tell you different. We've had decades of research into this. We know that that's not how it works. People don't tweet and then violence happens as a direct result. If you know, we know that that's not true.
Otherwise, we'd be knee-deep in violence.
It's why in the US you have the Brandenburg test for incitement to violence, which would mean that, you know, that firstly it has to be there has to be an intention to cause violence, that it is likely to cause violence, and that there is imminent risk of violence. So none of these people currently languishing in prison cells in the UK for tweets meet anywhere near the threshold of the Brandenburg test. We don't have that. So the chilling effect that this has, not just on people who are saying nasty things, the chilling effect on people expressing themselves in any way. We've got a guy who's just been found guilty of stirring up hatred because of a Halloween costume that he wore. He dressed up as the Manchester bomber, which is sick and unpleasant. That's the
But
point.
it's Halloween too.
It's Halloween,
which is like when you do.
it's about
when you
horror.
dress up in sick and unpleasant costumes.
There's a kind of joke in that. It's that you're trying to outgross everyone else. He's waiting the prison sentence. We don't know how long he's going to be in prison.